Hello everyone, I am William and this is Abraham from propertysold.ca, and today we're talking about the costs involved in purchasing a home. Abraham, when people buy a home for $300,000, that's not necessarily what they're going to pay for the home. There's lots of other professionals they need to pay to make that transaction happen. So we're going to talk about all the other costs involved when you're purchasing a home.
Yeah, definitely. Well, down payment is the first thing that comes to mind when you're buying a house. You know you have to have your down payment ready, and most people have that in mind, but there's hidden costs involved as well. And the hidden costs are what we're going to touch on today. And the hidden costs can be things such as lawyer's fees, first and foremost. You need a lawyer to register the title, to change the ownership of the property to your name, to do the mortgage paperwork as well, registering that. And a lawyer's fee can run anywhere from $800 up to $1,500, depending on exactly what the lawyer is doing for you. And that could include his costs as well as the costs, material costs for getting these things registered and documentation and all that stuff. So that's one of the things that you have to take into account. And that's money we're talking about money that you're going to have to pay on closing day or just before closing day. So this is something you really got to keep in mind when you're making your purchase. So we got the lawyer's fee, land transfer tax. That's another one. Land transfer tax that occurs in British Columbia, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, and Nova Scotia. And land transfer tax is basically a tax anywhere from 0.5 to 2% on the purchase price of your property, and that's the government take on things. They need their little cut, right? So,
and that can be anywhere from $1,000 to more than $10,000.
Yeah, depending on the province, depending on the calculation. There's multi-tiered calculations in Ontario, for example. There's two of them in Ontario, two different land transfer taxes.
If you live in Toronto, you're paying two land transfer tax.
So it can get costly. It's something you got to keep in mind. There are rebates for that. First-time home buyers, for example, get a tax credit, $5,000 non-refundable. There's also other tax credits. Talk to your lawyer on that. He will have all the information and all the documentation, paperwork you need to fill out, and he can apply for it for you as well.
Yeah.
So that's a land transfer tax there. HST, big question mark in a lot of people's minds. What is HST? Does it apply to me? And reality, HST is only now applied in British Columbia, Ontario, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, and Nova Scotia.
And only applies to new home sales.
New construction purchase. 93% of all homes sold in Canada are resale. So, this may not apply to you because, well, that's 93% of the market. So you really don't have to worry about it there. But if you are buying new, do be prepared to pay, that HST. And HST, there are rebates for that as well. There's the new housing rebate up to $24,000, which can be applied. This here, the $24,000, any home under $400,000, it actually ends up with that rebate being cheaper or the same that you would have paid with the old PST. Even though there's a higher interest charged on it, it ends up being the same or less than you would have paid the old way.
And there was a lot of confusion this summer when HST came out. People thought, I'm buying a $300,000 resale home. Do I have to pay 13% tax on that? And the answer is no. And the new homes, you definitely want to make sure you know what the rebates are, because if you go over that $400,000 threshold, then you are going to be paying HST.
Yeah, and it is something you got to factor in your purchase, definitely. So that's the HST. Title insurance is something that you purchase at the lawyer's office. It's actually insurance for the title of your property. It insures you against fraud against your title. So this is something that protects you. It's $250 to $500, depending on a condo or a home. And it's the cheapest type of insurance you can get that will really save your behind if something were to happen and some fraud were to be perpetrated.
Absolutely. I can't imagine anyone who wouldn't want to pay that to protect their largest investment.
For $250, yeah, it's worth it. To $500, it's definitely worth it. Appraisal fee. A lot of lenders will ask you to pay for an appraisal. Some lenders pay it for you, which is great, although it can be a cost of getting the mortgage. And it's what the lenders do require if they're not sure of the value, especially on a new construction when time has passed since you put your initial purchase down, you made the initial purchase. They want to make sure the value is still there. So that's a fee you have to think about as well.
Yeah.
Default insurance, when you're putting less than 20% in Canada, your mortgage is insured. Now, that charge for the insurance gets put onto your mortgage balance. You don't have to pay it at the closing date, but there is PST involved in that as well. So
you're paying taxes on the mortgage insurance.
Yeah, so if your mortgage insurance may be $5,000, you're paying the PST on that portion. It comes off right at the closing date. So that's something you have to factor in your numbers.
And that can be a lot of money if you choose you have 5% down and you're choosing the option of the CMHC as an option to port your mortgage and take the insurance with you. $300,000 home could be more than $12,000 in mortgage insurance fees that will be added onto your mortgage. So it can get costly. So do the math with that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Talk to a mortgage agent. He can do the calculations, or your bank, and they'll be able to advise you on what it's going to actually cost you for that. So A couple other things: property tax, condo fees, and utilities. When you are buying a property, you do have to make sure that all these things are up to date from the day that you take it and on. So that's a cost involved in carrying the mortgage, which again a lot of people don't think about. The condo fee, $400, $500, $200. It all depends on the condo itself, but that's money you have to take into account. Utility costs, and of course, as I mentioned again, the property tax.
Yes,
things you got to keep in mind. But those are the things that people just don't talk about, and it's important to know these things. They will come up when it comes time to make the payments, so you should know about them up front.
Absolutely. So if you're purchasing a home, you have to have your down payment, and you have to have a considerable chunk of money to pay for all these other fees.
Yeah, let's say 5% on top of the purchase price you want to have set aside. It's going to be anywhere from 2.5% to 5%, but keep that money on hand. And of course, talk to the professionals, the real estate agents, the mortgage agents, and your real estate lawyer to find out the costs before they surprise you. Yeah.
This is William and Abraham for PropertySold.ca.